Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andrae Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. So to find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.
Yeah, we came a long way, and that's what the songs say. And I can do all things. I can do all things. Yeah, I can do all things. Yeah,
What's going on, fam? Welcome back to Love Your Life Podcast. I'm your brother Andrae. I'm glad to be with you today. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Today, joining me is a good friend of mine, Brother Joel.
What up? How y'all doing?
So what's going on, fam? We sitting here just kind of chilling. And listen, I told you before, we in Arizona. It's about 200 degrees outside. But hey, we're having an awesome time just really celebrating life, celebrating family. For those of you who may not know, so my wife and I, we have 4 kids ranging in ages 6 to 17. Our second oldest is 14 today. So we're just kind of celebrating, hanging out. Obviously, we've been quarantining and kind of lifting that quarantine some. And so got my fam with me, Brother Joel, his family here. We go way back for years, our families. So it's just a cool time, just kind of hanging out, fellowship, food, fun, and do a little swimming, and kind of, enjoy the day. So Joel, kind of, man, you know what I'm saying? So it's weird. We have 4 sons. You have 4 daughters, man. Kind of what has that been like for you? What's been going on during this time of COVID quarantine?
Man, it's been different. Definitely a blessing to be around my family, to be around, and we just purchased a home, so just kind of enjoying our new home and being able to get stuff packed and put away.
For sure. Shout out for that. Congratulations on the new home, brother.
So just being able to get that off our backs and being able to enjoy it. I think that the house produced a whole lot more than what we expected as far as spacing, as far as being able to fellowship, and really during COVID, just to have something to do in the house, in the backyard, and things like that. So that's been a blessing to have the girls be able to get out some energy. I don't know, you know about energy with the kids, man.
So for sure. So in my household, we filled with testosterone. 5 males and my wife, the only female, and then. And my brother Joel's home.
You got Jayla.
Well, I'm tripping. We got a little daughter. We got a little daughter for sure, but it's 4 males, 2 females. So our household is full with for sure testosterone. But Joel's is exact opposite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He has his 4 girls and then his wife. So 5 females to 1 brother. So his household is filled with estrogen. So it is a trip, but at the end of the day, it's a beautiful thing, because at the end of the day, there are so many stereotypes that talk about, families and so forth. And in many ways, just families in general, but for sure, the black family, we've broken a lot of stereotypes.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that kind of shows, I grew up with 3 brothers and 1 sister. And so whenever we go swimming, it's like, let's go get in the pool, get in and out and go. Learning about girls, it's not as easy. It's every time you get in the pool, you got to do shampoo, conditioning, wrap your hair. It's just like, it's a process. So it's like, it's a lot of wear and tear when you get in the pool versus with the guys. So.
Hey, it's funny you say that, because I even, with our daughter who is 6 now, I'm just so used to, before I had our daughter, because she's our youngest, we were so used to, as a family, just getting up and going, me and the boys. We get up early Saturday morning, whether we're going to the park, playground, whatever we were going to do. It was like, get up, brush our teeth, throw our clothes on, go. And it's a trip looking at our daughter, and it's a blessing. But at the end of the day, man, she gets up, she accessorizes, take care of her hair, moisturizes her skin. She puts a little makeup on that we allow for a little 6-year-old. And so it is a process in comparison to how our boys, kind of get ready.
I'm gonna raise this. So I've learned, even going to bed now that my oldest is getting a little older, she's starting to do that accessorizing, as you say. So even going to bed, be like, yo, get in the bed. Boys, go to the bathroom and they hop in the bed. Girls, I got to go wash my face and put some moisturizer on. I got to go do this. It's like a process now to go to bed. I'm like, nah, man, come on.
Now, and for sure, like I said, it was all foreign to me prior to having our daughter, prior to, we having our daughter Jayla, it was foreign to me. And so for sure, she helped me mature my daughter, because honestly, obviously married with my wife and so forth, but until I got a chance to really see from the lens of a father, watching an infant baby grow into a 6-year-old daughter, I never really had the experience of seeing how, young girls or mature differently and approach life differently in a lot of ways than young boys. So I've definitely matured as a result of being around my daughter, just seeing it from her lens. And I know for me personally, I don't know about you, brother, but for me personally, it's helped me to be a better father in the aspect of just looking at life from the lens of what many of our females go through.
Yeah.
And so it definitely has matured me there. It's helped me kind of address some of my own, honestly, biases,
That's big right there, the biases. Because I think in one of your other podcasts you talked about, self-care and how important that is.
Yeah.
And same here, just you want your woman presentable, you want her to do all the things, smell good, look good, and you just really don't realize how much they put into their daily routine of being able to prepare themselves to do that. It's quite amazing. Kind of makes us feel like we're a little lazy.
Hey, for sure. So big shout out to all our sisters out there who's been holding it down, doing what you do, whether you're married, single with kids. Hey, listen, huge shout out to our sisters. We don't take you for granted. Definitely appreciate all your labor. All the women across this world that has been holding it down. Hey, listen, a blessing. So huge shout out. So, man, one of the things I kind of want to get into this topic a little bit. One of the things that I sit and really think about as a man, and it's pretty cool that you and I as men are coming together to really converse and engage in meaningful dialogue, is dealing with fear and how me as men, number one, we deal with fear, but how we relate with it, or how do we handle fear. And I want to stress at the end of the day, as a man, we all deal with fear. I think our approach many times is misperceived or is not understood how we address fear. And oftentimes people may label our lack of words or withdrawal as something wrong. And sometimes we're perceived as, that image of daddy's not afraid of nothing. But listen, as men, we deal with fear, that's for sure. And I want to stress, number one, to the brothers, and even the women that are listening, listen, it is okay to be afraid. There's things that we deal with, challenges, situations, and circumstances that are truly or has the potential or causes real fear. And so I want to really talk to the men and just stress the importance of allowing yourself to process all the emotions that you deal with as it relates to fear. But kind of, what are your thoughts on that? Fear and being a man and so forth, brother.
Pretty good thoughts on that. Not too long ago, I had a conversation with my wife about a level of uncomfortability with health and seeing doctors and just that experience of finding a doctor, male or female, and just the differences there, but more so the doctor being able to diagnose you with something or to make you feel fearful or limited, like, well, you no longer can do this, you no longer can do that.
Right.
I think as a man, it's like, I don't want nobody telling me what I can and cannot do, and I don't want no one limiting, whether it's for my good or not. There's just a level of fear of they're taking something away from me, or they're going to be able to pump me with all these meds, and now I have all these extra side effects.
Right.
You want to be healthy, but there's so many different things that you're afraid that it could go left.
So for you, you're saying you had an issue with the doctor dealing with some medical issues or health, and they were recommending like a regimen or medication, and you were kind of struggling to take heed or to listen to what the doctor was saying? No, not necessarily.
Just not necessarily that. Just the motivation to go in. So
okay.
I don't want to die on you, but I don't also want to sign up for all the extra stuff that could go on when I'm in there, and I got to take these pills now. I got to do this, my blood pressure this, my blood sugar this. You know, It's just a lot of stuff that you feel like growing up, like those wasn't the issue. And you feel like, man, if that's the issue now, they're going to stop me from doing this. I'm just going to prolong and push it off.
So you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to make sure that, so you were dealing with some things in regards to your health personally.
Right.
But you were fearful or afraid of going to the doctor because you didn't want them to have you on telling you to take this and do that, et cetera?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So, hey, listen, that brings up a good point because, and I want to talk about this because I really want to hear your perspective.
Okay.
A lot of the times, and this is not always the case, but a lot of times there are men, you know, as a man, we struggle with being transparent, or we know there's something going on, and we don't go to the doctor.
Right.
And you just basically stated that you were dealing with fear, and so you knew there was something going on. You said obviously you didn't want to die. You know, you wanted to improve your health, but you were struggling to go to the doctor because you didn't want, I get maybe the fear of the unknown, fear of what they're going to put you on, what type of medication.
And the bills.
Okay.
And the expense of the bills. That's a whole nother level of now I got a budget for this. I got to do this to maintain whatever it is that it may be.
Okay. So how did you process through this with your wife and dealing with the fear of your health and even getting the treatment that your wife was recommending that you needed? How did you process that? How did y'all walk through that?
What we walked through, like, okay, well, what is it that you're feeling, that you feel that you may need to go to the doctor about? I mean, mostly it's just the yearly checkup is the number one thing.
Yeah.
But depending on your work situation, and it's easy to say I can't call off work right now, you know, because that caused me to call off work, and then I got to go into the office.
Okay.
Similar to the dentist, to be real, it's like you go to the dentist and it's the same thing. Well, you got a cavity, you need a root canal, so I came in here just to do the right thing, get my teeth checked on. And I come find out I need $3,000 worth of work. It's like, bro, you're killing me.
Hey, but listen, I want to stress, because even as we talk about this, loving your life, the ministry, the purpose behind loving your life is to truly help people to see the value in their life and make sure that we put our life, we value our life and understand that our life needs to be a premium, meaning we place a premium on the value of our life. So for me, and even as I hear you talking, it is very important for us men, sometimes it's easy for us to spend money on taking care of wife and kids, and two major responsibilities as a man, probably the main two, is provision and protection. That's how we show love to our families, providing for them, protecting them. And so oftentimes as a man, it may be easier for us to spend money on our family or the health of our family at the expense of neglecting ourselves. Yeah. And so for men, there are some things that we have to unlearn, because at the end of the day too, if we neglect our health or ourselves for the sake of our family, we're really doing our family a disservice, because we may limit the longevity of life we're on this earth to spend time with them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
So, but I think it's great that you're talking about this, because a lot of times many people do not realize, and I'm not minimizing or taking anything or saying that women have it easier. No, but I'm just talking from the lens of a man. A lot of people do not realize, if you're not a man, a lot of women, not all, don't realize the level of weight that men carry. And in fairness, I want to be real, sisters. There's a lot of times us as men, we don't realize the what you're carrying and the weight. So please don't think that I'm giving us men a pass. But I can truly say, as a man, on a daily basis, we're bombarded with thoughts of fear of, we're going to have enough, fear of, we're going to be able to provide like we want to, wrestle with the fear of, what if something happens or something goes on and, we're not able to get what our family needs. And so that's a real area. And as a man who, as we've matured, I know I've grown in this area, but it definitely, it takes time to really get to that place to where we can confront those fears and do the things we need to do from a healthy perspective.
Yeah. I think about just our journey and how things were tight, you know, money was low. As Bizzle would say, the money was low. And knowing that you want to provide at a certain level and just trying to keep your mental health as you get to that process, as you get to the increased salary, or, you know, maybe you're in schooling and you're trying to get your master's so you can get a better salary paying job, or, you know, creating your business, whatever your journey is.
Right.
I think it's a lot of that, the process to getting there and keeping your head straight on, knowing that your kids, they see other kids or they see cousins with nice shoes or nice things, like, I got an allowance, I got a shopping budget, you know what I mean? Just really balancing, well, I want my kids to have that, but right now, what's more important?
Yeah.
Them feeling like they're at the top of their fashion game, or them knowing that this roof, X, Y, and Z is going to be there. I know as a kid growing up, when you go to the store, you already know the answer is no. There's not too many oftentimes you go to the store and the answer is yes when you ask for something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, but so even as you're kind of unpacking it and dealing with it, I shared even before my journey as a child growing up. You know, obviously my parents, thank God, they worked their fingers to the bone and just really provided for us, took care of us. One thing, obviously, we had love. Money always seemed to be scarce in our home. And so for me, I realized that there were some things, although my parents did everything they could and did the best for me, and I'm extremely grateful and appreciative. But even confronting fear and even maturing, there were some things that I had to unlearn. And number one, as we talk about this, I had to learn after I got married and after I became a parent, how to truly put my health and love my life enough to put it on as a premium. Meaning, it was easy for me to sacrifice on behalf of my wife. You know, we've shared numerous times, my wife and I, about some of the challenges we face with dealing with a medical condition that she, deals with. We've shared, obviously, raising children and going to school and finances and all those things that are a part of life for everyone. And so as a result of that, there was a season in my life and in our marriage where I truly was not taking care of myself. And what I mean by that, I was doing a lot of the great things, going to work every day, providing, functioning, taking care of kids, taking care of wife, but I was not making any time for myself. I was going from one task to another for the sake of, wrestling with internal fears, not having enough. What if they need this? What if this goes on? To the point where even when I would try to do something for myself, I couldn't really enjoy it or relax, because in my mind, I was wrestling with fear. So I want to stress even to the brothers out there, listen, as a man, number one, acknowledge that, hey, we all have fears that we deal with. It's okay. Please don't entertain the thought of, you're fearful. That's an attack on your masculinity. The bottom line is we all deal with fear, but I do want to encourage men, do not allow fear to cause you to be paralyzed or not make progress or get engaged in paralyzing fear. We're not making progress because you're afraid. So in other words, I want to stress, it is our duty and our obligation to confront our fears and deal with them so that they don't become a stumbling block and stop us from doing what we need to do.
Yeah.
So what would you say that you don't mind sharing, Brother Joel? What are some things specific things, areas of fear? You mentioned health. Are there any other particular fears that you had to address personally that you don't mind sharing? And if, as you give those, kind of give some examples of what did you do to kind of address it?
All right. I can't, the one that's coming to my mind, I didn't purposely go address it, but it made itself very clear to me that I had a fear of dogs.
Okay.
All right. So I had dogs growing up, but there were some dogs that I was traumatized by, and being at a friend's house and just not really understanding when you run from dogs, they think you're playing. So I used to have this Doberman at a friend's house, and I run. I remember one time it came chasing. I just felt like it was going to bite me,
Yeah.
So I jumped into his mom's arms in the kitchen, man. I flew.
Yeah.
And I think from there, man, it just was always a level of I can't fully trust dogs. So I just went to San Diego, and my brother and my parents have a dog. So they have a beach that we're regular people are, but then they have a portion of the beach just for animals.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, dog, I ain't come all the way here to swim with no dogs. But so we went over there because we had the dogs with us. And, man, that was a very, very fearful moment. I mean, there's about 6 or 7 pit bulls, German shepherds running around, little dogs, big dogs, loose everywhere.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, they're off leash. You know, I got my kids here, so that's even more heightened. I'm like, okay, I got to protect them. And really, it's really me.
Yeah.
But so we get to walking out to the water. You know, they're running by us, and we get in the water, and they only go so deep, so I'm further away from them. But obviously, when I walk out the water, I got to pass them. But long story short, man, all of those dogs were pretty much well trained dogs, like. Socialized dogs, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, not one of them looked at us for attention. Like, it was like they had their own dog world and we had our own people world. And that was the first time being around 6 or 7 pits where I didn't have to run. I didn't have to be like, get down, move.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't pay us no mind, man.
So
I think it's really an ownership and how you develop your dog to be in the dog community, but also...
Yeah. So that personal experience obviously sounds like it stems from like your personal interactions with dogs and so forth and the fear. Now, what about as a husband? So as a husband and a father, is there any particular areas of fear that you had to address as from the lens of a husband and a father?
As a father, one that comes to mind is I had some of what I would call my sisters experience like abuse, you know, physical abuse. And so having 4 daughters, it's like, man, how do I make sure that they don't stay in a relationship where they're being abused? And so we had a conversation. I told them that daddy is, because I feared that they would look at my discipline as love and get that confused if another man were to do that to them. And I said, listen, your daddy disciplines you, and I'm the only man that's going to discipline you. When you get older and things like that, you no longer have to be disciplined. Mm-hmm. No man should be whooping or hitting you to discipline you to do what he wants you to do. You'll be grown enough, and if anyone does that, they're out of pocket. They're not supposed to be disciplining you. So just to let them know a clear line of, look, when you're this age to a certain extent, I'm raising you in the right way. Definitely very mindful now of if I do whoop them, where I whoop them, how I whoop them, because girls are so much more emotional. And to a certain extent, I've actually kind of pushed that more towards my mom, because I don't want to open that door.
Yeah. So, but even as you say that, because I think too, you know, there are so many different forms of discipline, and what works for one child doesn't work for all. And obviously, I've seen you with your daughters, and the vast majority of times, it's conversations when they do something wrong, time out, and so forth. You know, and as a family, obviously, I know you and your wife, and there are times that yes, you do spank your children. Honestly, listen, everyone's going to have their own opinion and so forth in regards to raising their child. I know for my wife and I, in regards to the discipline aspect, there are times I think we spend more time talking with them in discipline in other forms, but there are times I have spanked, you know, my younger children. But I think your point, and even looking at the abuse piece, fearful and want to make sure that your daughters don't allow any man, when they start dating, to abuse them and mistake that as he's doing this because he loves me.
Right.
And so, and you mentioned briefly about your sister and kind of experiences she shared. Were you ever fearful of what you might do to this man that hurt your sister, that may have caused trouble to come your way?
I mean, there's that level of, well, I think for a while there was always like, well, I'm gonna end up in prison some way, somehow. I guess this is the time, because this fool's about to cross that. He didn't cross that line, and I guess this is my time to go get locked up, because that's not gonna fly.
Yeah.
I think just as a man, as a protector, you know, even though she's my older sister, I see her as my younger sister. And not just her, but there were other sisters that were experiencing that.
Yeah.
And I knew kind of what family they were kind of raised under. So it was like, man, I don't understand why this is happening. I don't understand why they're settling or why this is going down. I mean, obviously there's a lot more. Ladies, you know, you can put us up on game, but it's just there's just a very righteous anger that comes up when I hear stories about that, because it's like, you don't have to live like that. You don't have to put yourself in subjection to this dude.
To foolishness. But even, and most people don't know, obviously, Joel and my wife grew up together as preteens and teens. And before I even knew my wife, my wife and their families were very close. My wife was very close with his families growing up. And so, but Joel was for sure very instrumental in my wife's life. And when she was dating certain guys and so forth, just some crazy situations that, this brother was truly there for her as a preteen teen. And even as a young adult, before I even met my wife. So hats off to you, brother, for number one,
all good.
Being a man that, didn't run from your fears, and then being mature enough to truly address fears in a healthy way, while simultaneously continually handle your responsibilities that deal with, obviously, protection and provision. And so, again, that really speaks to the importance of, confronting our fears. I want to stress, number one, and women, one of the ways that you can support us men is, please don't mistake our time of being quiet or distance as a means of, or that we don't want to discuss it, or we don't want to engage in meaningful dialogue. Sometimes there are areas of fears that we're wrestling internally with, and we're trying to make sure that we're clear on emotionally on how we feel and how we're dealing with the fear for ourselves first. And sometimes what may be perceived as we're quiet or we don't want to talk about it is we just need some time to deal with some personal conflicts that we're wrestling with.
So give us an example. I think that's a good point.
So good. I think, for me personally, so one of my examples would be when I sit and think about protecting, providing for my family. One of the biggest fears that I wrestled with is, not being able to provide like I wanted to provide for my family. And one of the things, and one of the ways that was unhealthy and how I was addressing it was I was constantly doing things for their quality of life and for their health at the expense of my life and my health. And so I had to realize that I was really unbalanced in my approach, meaning what I was doing were good things per se. However, I was doing it from a place of fear. Well, what if we don't have, and what if we don't do this? To the point where I couldn't enjoy our life and the blessings and some of the things and the things that we do have. And I couldn't really enjoy my time as a man alone because I was, dealing with fear from a healthy lens. So I think for sure that's a huge one that I know I've definitely overcome. And part of, loving your life is really making sure we highlight the importance of taking care of self, self-care. Before you can take care of anyone else, you have to take care of yourself. I told my wife years ago, and we agreed on this, that if she doesn't take care of herself, if I don't take care of me, number one, we're not going to be able to take care of each other and our children. And so years ago, we began to put a premium on our health, and we didn't completely change some old mindsets and bad habits overnight, but we were intentional of working on it little by little to where we're at a really good space right now.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Just as a man and dealing with whatever our regular responsibilities are, identifying when your spouse is isolated or you are isolated, you're in a place of isolation, you don't feel like whatever's going on is bigger than talking about where you feel isolated. How do you identify if you're isolated or if she's isolated? What are the signs that someone's isolated?
As far as like withdrawing in a relationship or what? Or
not necessarily withdrawing. They feel alone. You feel alone. You feel isolated. There's certain things that you're discussing or not discussing. Mm-hmm. Like for example, let's just say you had to move in a rush. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're weighing what are the options? How are we going to do this? But it's not that you're purposely isolating, but in your mind you're isolating I got to find a solution to this problem.
Oh, that's a great point. And I think that is another area of real fear that all men, and I'm sure all women too, all men we deal with. Meaning there's internal fears because we don't know what to do.
There we go.
And it's going to happen, brothers. It's going to happen where you're wrestling things in your mind and you really don't know what to do. And so, and we've had this conversation with my wife and I, and we've allowed one another, number one, space to process our feelings. And then we're at a place where we can be transparent. Because for one, there was a time that I was operating out of paralyzing fear, and I would not admit to my wife, I don't know what to do, babe. I'm scared. I'm afraid. Like I'm at a loss. And I was operating.
Is it okay to tell your wife or to tell someone?
For sure. So where we are now, and this is part of how our marriage has matured. When we first got married, I wasn't as vulnerable with my conversations. Number one, because I was operating in some areas of my life from a false pretense of thinking I'm a man. I got to be able to do this and that. And I had to grow and realize that, wait a minute. No, I can't do everything. And part of being married is this is my helpmate. And so how do we handle it? Number one, giving myself permission and being vulnerable enough in marriage with my wife and vice versa, where I can come to my wife and say, babe, I'm afraid. Like there's some areas that I'm just scared about, and this is what it is. And I just I just begin to share how I'm feeling and what's going on and all the things I'm processing, and I'm flat out like I don't know what to do. I'm honestly I'm kind of scared. What are your thoughts in this? How are you viewing this? And see that takes a level of maturity for anyone, especially men, to say I don't know. I'm afraid. Can you help me? So I want to stress this. Listen, part of having a healthy marriage and part of loving your life enough is being vulnerable enough to be able to be truthful and transparent. Obviously, I hope with your spouse and also people in your inner sphere. Because listen, I'm not telling you to tell everybody all your business. That's just foolish and unwise. But as men, and listen to me carefully, brothers, as men, you're going to have positive people that you can be transparent with and be vulnerable with to share your feelings, because iron sharpens irons. We need that. Now, I'm not saying you're going to tell everything to anyone outside of your spouse, but there should be a group of people in your inner circle that you can be transparent with and process your thoughts and bounce them off of people without being fearful that they're going to, number one, tell your business, slander you, or ridicule you. So, at the end of the day, I want to stress men, look, be mature enough, get to that place where you can be truthful. It's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to say I'm fearful, I don't understand, I need help. That is not weakness. That's actually a sign of maturity. And so I want to encourage you, if you're stuck there, if that's your challenge, take the time to be intentional about getting help, about confronting your fears. So, hey, listen, Brother Joel, it's been real, man. I enjoyed having you on. Listen, fam, y'all can all check us out. We're on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. Listen, at the end of the day, loving your life enough as men and women, confront your fears. Till we meet again. Peace. God bless. I'll holla.
Shout to the city that raised me. Shout to the people that made me. I'm from the 80s. I don't think mumbling wavy. I grew up like on a Jay-Z. Maybe I'm crazy. I ain't been wondering lately. Feel like it's there for the taking. Feel like I'm good with the changes. Know who I am. And that's the most dangerous state.
Hey, Love Your Life fam. It's Crystal and Andrae Holland.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, looking forward to hearing from you. So to find us, you can check us out on
Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Stitcher. We look forward to hearing from you all.